Let's talk about a game that we all three have interest in. We all three have some sort of angle. We all three have some sort of play. It is the Vikings and the Bengals as we sit right now. And this is another interesting one that I actually saw some movement happening along the way. We are sitting the Vikings across the board as 3-point favorites in this one, which I think is a little bit interesting here, that this number came off that 3.5 that we were seeing a little bit earlier in the week. So 3 across the board, a total of 47 or 47.5, depending on where you look at it. Brad, I'm going to start things off with you here. This is a Joe Burrow-led Bengals team that is at home against the Vikings. That being said, Burrow hasn't played in a real game in a very long time. Only saw very minimal action in the preseason as it was anyway. They spent their first-round pick on Jamar Chase, which I still think is going to be a home run in the NFL down the line, but he's got the dropsies right now. And there's a guy that, that sat out the 2020 season. He opted out, as everybody remembers. So he hadn't seen real game time, game speed, game getting hit, all of that stuff in a long time. And so it might take him a little while to get going as well. The Vikings, big move, bring in Patrick Peterson on the defensive side of the ball. How much does he have left in the tank? Is he as good as we believe that he still could be? That's going to be one of the big questions. And of course, the looming thing over this Vikings team all year long, and something that we'll have to talk about here on this pod week in and week out, is the fact that their quarterback in Kirk Cousins, unvaccinated. So his status for the team each and every week could still be up in the air. Brad, what do you think about Vikings and Bengals?
Terrible last year. Obviously got Burrow killed. Projected to be the 30th best offensive line in the NFL by PFF this year. Going up against like a sort of refurbished Vikings D line. So, the Vikings defense last year was the worst it's been under Zimmer. Historically, he puts together sort of top 5 defenses. But they're bringing back Danielle Hunter, bringing in Michael Pierce, Sheldon Richardson. They've got Eric Kendricks back in the middle there. They upgraded the secondary, as you said. They brought in Patrick Peterson, Bashard Breeland, Mackenzie Alexander. Basically, Mike Zimmer just said, I'm not having a bad defense again. We're investing in it. I would expect them to be kind of a top 8, top 6 unit, as we would expect out of them. And especially that pass rush, Hunter and those big D tackles I just went through, Sheldon Richardson. And so I think they're just going to be in Burrow's face. He's mobile-ish, but he's also going to be in there taking properly live bullets for the first time since he tore that ACL. The camp reports improved. Obviously, initially he did sound like he was very rusty, but it sounds like he got better. But it's very different from wearing your red jersey in practice to having the Vikings trying to rip your head off. And then the other side of the ball is basically the Vikings receivers. We all know about Thielen and Jefferson, probably the best duo in the NFL. And the Bengals secondary, already one of the worst last year, and then missing key players for week 1. Probably Trey Waynes is missing. So they're down to like their 4th and 5th string corners. So I can just see Cousins throwing all over them, and then once they're ahead, they'll probably switch to the run game and just grind it out. And it's not like the Bengals are good at stopping that either. So yeah, I think the Vikings -3 is a good play.
Stephen, this is a game that I know that you are on as well from a betting angle. I have a different angle on this one, but all three of us on this game. What do you have for the Vikings and Bengals?
Yeah, I like the Vikings to cover that 3. If it goes back to 3.5, I'd be less interested. I have a bet on the under 48. That's sitting at 47.5 right now. I'm still okay with that. Let's start with when the Vikings have the ball. And Brad mentioned Trey Waynes being out. So that means that the corners for week 1 are going to be Chidobe Awuzie of Cowboys infamy a year ago and Eli Apple. Eli Apple, 118.8 passer rating allowed a year ago. Awuzie, 130. Both of these guys for their careers allowing 100 plus passer ratings. And Awuzie, what a Bengals signing, right? Like when you need help in the secondary, who do you go get? Let's go get a guy from the Cowboys 2020 secondary. What a sharp move that was, by the way. So I think they can take advantage of that in the passing game for the Vikings offense. And then when the Bengals have the ball, I think this is a great example when you're looking at week 1 in sports betting, where you can't just look at what a side of the ball did a year ago without further context. I mean, the Vikings a year ago were dead last in pressure rate, but they were decimated by injuries. They had guys opt out. What does it look like now in week one? I mean, there is a laundry list of moves and guys coming back that the Vikings have on the defensive side of the ball that should make this a very different situation for them generating pressure going into this year. Danielle Hunter was second in the NFL in pressures and fifth in sacks in 2019. He missed last season. Linebackers Anthony Barr and Eric Kendricks are back. Kendricks was the number one graded overall linebacker by PFF in 2019. He missed a combined 19 games as well. In addition, Minnesota, they're bringing back Michael Pierce. He opted out last season from COVID. They had Dalvin Tomlinson. Sheldon Richardson is back on this front. So if you're going to blindly look at what the Vikings defense did a year ago, I think that would be a huge mistake based on the influx of talent that they now have in this front seven. So that's a big reason I like the Vikings to cover this number if it stays at 3. And then from the under standpoint, that pressure being able to get in Burrow's face, I don't think he's going to be very mobile in the pocket his first game coming back from an ACL. Combine that with the fact that both of these teams were in the bottom half of the league in pace a year ago, not only in overall pace, but also when they were in situation neutral, when they were ahead, when they were behind. Both of these offenses were bottom half of the league in pace. So I think that lends as well to a possible under in this one.
I am on this one as well, just from a different standpoint. Like I mentioned, I am in the big survivor pool here in Vegas. I'm going for the $6 million first prize that is for the last person standing. And the Vikings are going to be my play here for week one. I think that they are not going to be an incredibly popular play. So I'm hoping that I gain a little bit of leverage. As I said, this Bengals team, I think, will give people fits maybe more closer to the middle of the season whenever, like Brad, as you mentioned, Burrow, as good as he is, and I think he's going to be, a really, really good NFL quarterback, seeing real fire coming his way for the first time in a long time it's just going to be tough. It's going to be different. And this defense didn't get good enough for the first game of the year to be able to hold off a Vikings team that, listen, should be fairly polished. I mean, as far as the weapons go, it's returning the same quarterback, the same backfield, and your 2-star wide receivers. They should be able to move the ball at will, however they kind of want to here. So for me, it's going to be my contest play. And so I might be out of this thing in week one because I'm putting all 3 entries on the Vikings to win this game outright here. So I could be out in week one. Yeah, I know. I could be out in week one of this thing. So that's how.
One last note here that we didn't mention. It's not just Joe Burrow coming back from an ACL in this game. The Bengals starting center, Trey Hopkins, tore his ACL very late in the season a year ago. He's coming back on a quick turnaround as well. So it's the exchange completely for the Bengals that are going to have to deal with this front coming off ACLs.